Hey, good morning everyone. Frank Valkyria here in Amsterdam. It's Sunday morning. Welcome to the channel. And today I just want to do a video reviewing a little bit, reacting to the new camera that is coming out from Canon. We have had some leaked images of a new Canon Eos R full frame mirrorless camera coming to the market in a few days. Well, actually announced that it's going to be announced in a few days. They say like 5 September or so. And I'm a little late for the video, but anyway, let's jump into it right away. I don't want to focus so much on the specs and all of those things, which already there are plenty of videos which they're done better in their way, so go check them out. But I want to concentrate more on the videographer aspect of this camera, which one are my thoughts, and especially if you're a vlogger, which you already have a setup, if for you should consider upgrading with this new camera. Because at the end of the day, you know, especially if you're a vlogger, you need only certain things. So to reinvest another 2,500 bucks for a new camera really has to be worth the while. And I explain why. So anyway, let's give the rundown a little bit on the spec of this thing. So just to make the the video. So this is a new camera, mirrorless, like there are many nowadays, out. Also Nikon has announced the Z6 and 7, which I also did the reaction video a week ago, and Canon is joining the trend, probably late. So I'm hoping first of all that this camera is going to be a milestone, not just filling in sort of, trying to be into the market, which is already getting saturated with a lot of good cameras and options. So the camera is a full frame sensor, CMOS sensor, 30.3 megapixel sensor, which is, some people say, is the same sensor that you have in the 5D Mark IV, which is great because it's a great sensor for photography, and we have to see for videography most likely as well, because Canon has a really good color science. So that alone, it's an enticing fact. I see that as a dual pixel autofocus, great feature. Also the 5D as that, I think. But anyway, for me, the numbers are not so incredibly important, like regarding, for instance, like, here says 4K video recording. Yes, great, awesome, like all the other cameras. But how it is this 4K? Is it full 4K? Is it compressed? The thing that I cared the most is, does it record 10-bit internal? If it doesn't, then it's already a step behind cameras which they're already there with that. And you cannot future-proof your content, because you can record 10-bit. It's much more information. If you want to screen your stuff somewhere else with a different compression, 422 or ProRes and all that kind of stuff, or RAW, you can do it. And if it's already compressed with the Performance 264, I don't know about that. To me, we'll put it already at the same level or an inferior level to other cameras which are already there. So most important thing for me as a videographer, as a vlogger, as a content creator on YouTube is, yes, the light factor is great, smaller camera. This camera comes with a new mount. It's an R mount, so there's going to be 4 lenses coming out, which I already see here some pictures, and there is a 35mm, a 50mm, a 2870mm, and a 2405. So the 35 as at the end, a nice silver ring, probably suggesting that it's the kit lens coming with the camera. And all the other 3, they have a nice red ring around the edge of the camera, probably saying it's a sort of L-series lenses, like the other Canon lenses. But you can still use all the EF mounts on this camera using an adapter. Actually, there are 3, an adapter from hard to EF, so you can use all the EF, the other way around, sorry. You can use all the lenses that you already have from Canon, which is awesome. This is one reason, like, I would consider jumping, because there's such a great line of lenses that you can use with Canon. So that, especially if you're already some, this is a great camera to have in that respect. And there's also another one. You can put a filter, drop a filter in between the lens and the body of the camera, and the filter, which is also great. The other one, I don't know exactly what it is. Right now, I don't care. Like I said, what I cared the most is this camera has an articulated screen. and this is great. This is great for vloggers because I use the phone on the Samsung NX1, which you connect through Bluetooth to have the screen to see what I'm doing, because the screen is articulated but doesn't flip forward, so I cannot see myself. This is a great upgrade. So, but only for that would I jump ship. I went from Nikon to Canon to Sony, from Sony to Samsung. So I would really love actually to go back to Canon because their Pro gears it's awesome, but you know, you have to consider here you have to spend 2,500 euro at least to get into this system with the cheap lens, with the kit lens probably, most likely. And how is it the 4K? This is what I care. How is it the rolling shutter? You know, like how is it the high ISO? Like the same thing I talked about with the Z. To me, those things are important in the real world. I don't care so much where the buttons are, because more or less you work around certain things, you know, like especially when, you know, for some people are important, for some people are less important, because you adjust yourself. Every time I change camera, more or less I adjust myself. But things to have nowadays are, for instance, like touchscreen. Canon should have probably a great touchscreen like the Samsung has, which will be good for all the functions on the screen, like Sony didn't have Sony on the previous camera. I always find it very frustrating that my A6000, you know, you have to go through the menu and everything, while you have cameras today like still, like the NX1, it's 3 years old or more, and it has an amazing touch screen, of course, because they do make phones. So like I can regulate everything from there, all the options, which is amazing. So I already have a lot of options in this camera, older camera, which they're coming out now, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and, you know, touchscreen, all of that. I have all of that. 120 frames per second in HD, full 4K. But I would love to have a camera that does it's a full frame sensor that does 4K. Perhaps they do a full readout, they don't sample, they don't do cropping. So that would be awesome. If I'm saying something stupid, correct me. But my camera does this thing like a full readout from 6K to 4K, like the same with the Sony Alpha 6500, for instance, because this is a crop sensor. So I'm curious to see how they record this 4K if it's not cropped. And like I said, if it's a 10-bit raw internal recording. If it has a couple of slots for SD cards, that would be awesome. What else? If the ISO to 6400, it's clean. Because to me, if it can get to 6400 and being clean, it's super usable. You know, you are into the city and you can do already a lot. If it goes a little bit higher, great. But like I said, 6400, it's already quite good. Actually, pretty good if you shoot in the evening and night into the city with all the lights of the city, and if the image is clean, wow, that's gonna be awesome. So for me, those are the things that matter the most. And of course, the rolling shutter, if it's bad or if it's really good, you know, that's a big plus. If the rolling shutter in 4K, it's gonna be decent, all the better. And if it has in-body image stabilization with 5-axis, which you know, the GH5 has, if this thing doesn't have that, it's already, I don't know. Like I said, I want this camera to be a milestone, like the 5D Mark II was. So to me, to be a milestone, this camera should have a 10-bit internal recording, a couple of slots for SD cards, the rolling shutter to be decent at least, inside image stabilization with 5-axis inside the body. What else? Full 4K. 4K at 60 frames per second. Perhaps at 2K with 120 frames per second, or at least 180 frames per second in full HD, or at least 120 in full HD. If this thing has a 2K 120 frames per second, this is really gonna be like a step ahead of all the competition. What else? The articulating screen is that. We know that Canon has a great autofocusing system, so I don't doubt that it's going to be better than other camera, at least I hope so. So especially for vloggers, you're doing your thing, this thing is not going to lose your face or focus on something else, which sometimes this thing does, and that will be incredible. and we know the quality of the lenses, though I'm also not worried for the lenses. But like I said, I'm more worried about those things. If those things are not there, like I described, also the ISO and the sensitivity to low lights, you know, if those things, the 4K and the rolling shutter and the 10-bit RAW internal and the image stabilization and the 2K 120 frame per second, and like I said before, if those things are not there, this camera then is just comparable to what it's already out. So should you buy it? I mean, then it becomes really hard to make the decision, because there is already options which are there, and you can work around some of the issues that those cameras have. But as a videographer, for instance, you can go, like I said before, buy a GH5. The prices are dropping fast. Like you can buy a GH5 here in Europe for 1,400 euro the body, which is pretty good camera. To, you know, does all the things that I said, 10-bit RAW, and the image is pretty good. Internal image stabilization. You just have to work around the autofocusing, which is not excellent, but you can work around that. And it's a better camera in many respects. So this camera, to be a milestone, needs to have those things. If it doesn't, it's a nice entry, it's a nice camera, it's a good camera. So, and then it becomes just a matter of, I don't mind spending a couple $100 more compared to this other camera that's more or less the same, because I like Canon more, or because I have Canon lenses. Then it's fine. You know, like it goes down to personal preferences of likes, which is great. For the same reason a person buys Panasonic instead of Sony, or the other way around. But this camera, I want it to be a milestone, and I hope it is. Otherwise, it's just underwhelming. And I suspect that Canon is not going to jeopardize their video recorders market, creating a camera that is so much, you know, powerful, like the one I just described. But I hope so. We'll see in a few days. And like I said, mine was a little bit of reaction more on the practical utilization of this thing, and if you should just jump ship from where you have. If this thing doesn't have all the things that I described, I don't think I will switch, because I already do most of those things with my camera, and for a vlogger, that's all that matters. If you're a professional videographer, probably you're going to look for something different, but a professional videographer, if I will find those things that I described before into this camera, will consider this camera right away, because of the form factor, the size, and everything, which is super enticing. So anyway, those are my few cents. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're a camera geek like me, and what you expect from this camera. We will know in a few days, and I'll see you in a few days, and we're gonna comment on it. All right, see you soon. You take care and have a good Sunday, and thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.